Inside the dimly lit Assumption Cathedral in Vladimir, the air is thick with the smell of wax and old stone. It is the 9th day of a grueling state funeral, and the tension in the room is at a breaking point. Metropolitan Kirill, the highest religious authority in the land, approaches the open coffin. He holds a scroll of forgiveness, a final rite to be placed in the hands of the deceased. As Kirill reaches down, the impossible happens. The pale, cold hand of the corpse twitches. Before the eyes of the terrified clergy, the fingers curl around the parchment and pull it from the priest's grip. This was the body of Prince Alexander Nevsky. In this moment, the title of Great Prince began to fall away, replaced in the eyes of the people by the halo of a saint. We have to ask why a nation on the brink of collapse and its powerful leaders clung so fiercely to the belief that a corpse had just performed a miracle. In the 13th century, Russian lands were trapped within the vast pink borders of the Mongol Empire. These dependent Russian states existed at the Khan's mercy. Survival meant constant tribute, praying the horde wouldn't turn their cities to ash. Alexander was the diplomat who kept that violence at bay. When he died suddenly in the town of Gorodets while returning from the Mongol capital, the thin line between peace and total annihilation vanished. As the news spread, it triggered paralyzing terror. Without Alexander to negotiate, the people expected Mongol riders to appear on the horizon. The death of the prince left a void that was quickly filled by panic. The population was searching for any sign that they hadn't been completely abandoned to their fate. The prince's final journey was a desperate scramble through the freezing wilderness. His retinue traveled light, abandoning their heavy treasury in the woods, hoping the cold air would keep the dying man alive long enough to reach home. In his final hours, he was surrounded by monks performing a frantic ritual, hurrying to ordain him into their order before his pulse stopped. The physical reality was grim. Father Ironarch had to use his own hands to pull down the prince's glassy, staring eyes, holding them shut while whispering prayers to ensure the lids wouldn't snap back open. The man who had commanded the loyalty of entire armies was now a heavy weight, a silent passenger being hauled across the cracked river ice. Seeing their protector as a cold, rotting corpse forced the people to realize his mortality. It was this undeniable physical decay that made the need for a divine successor so urgent. By the time the body reached Vladimir, the roads were choked. What started as a small escort had become a massive pilgrimage, with thousands of people descending on the city. The air was thick with the sound of wailing and the heavy scent of incense. The crush was so intense that people were being trampled in the mud, their cries lost in the collective mourning of the city. People threw themselves to the ground, clawing through the freezing mist just to touch the edge of the prince's clothing as he passed. But inside this chaos, a new story began to circulate. Word arrived that Alexander's final mission to the Mongols had actually succeeded. The Khans had been appeased. The massacres the people feared were not coming. This revelation changed the atmosphere of the funeral. The terror of the Mongol horde began to lift, replaced by a growing sense that the prince's death had been a final, successful sacrifice for his people. As the bells of the cathedral began ringing out over the city, the crowd gathered beneath the high white walls to hear from their leaders. Metropolitan Kirill looked out over the sea of faces and spoke the words that would define the era. The sun of the Russian land has set. The impact was immediate. Thousands of people dropped to their knees at once, a collective collapse so powerful that witnesses claimed the ground itself seemed to tremble under the weight of their grief. With those words, Kirill lifted Alexander out of the political ruin of the time and placed him into the firmament of the nation's history. This brings us back to that 9th day and the hand in the coffin firmly grasping the scroll. The story of the grasping hand moved faster than the funeral itself. Whether it was a biological reflex or a calculated invention, it gave the people a miracle exactly when they were most convinced they were doomed. The church recognized that while a dead prince could no longer negotiate with the Khans, an immortal saint could provide a different kind of armor, a spiritual identity that could survive even if the cities were burned. Alexander Nevsky's final legacy was the myth he left behind. It was a story born in a moment of absolute terror, crafted to ensure that even in his death, the state he defended would have a protector who could never be killed.